Jai Tulsi Maharani ki jai. He led very nicely. Amazing. Okay. All right. I think we're ready to go. All right. Oh, what happened with the cartels?
Behind yourself.
Oh. How did you know what my computer was called?
I know all computers. I love computers.
Yeah, I have two computers. One is this thing just for classes, and then a regular one, a carbon. You know what a carbon is?
Oh, I actually haven't heard of that. You have to do some research on that.
Yeah, you better look it up right now before it's too late.
Not right now.
Lenovo.
Ah.
Lenovo Carbon X1.
Personally, I don't like Lenovo. I prefer sticking to Windows.
All right. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Jara Baba Giri Varadhati Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Gopi Jana Madhava Giri Varadhati Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Munatira Vanacharati Yamuna Tera Vanachanti Jai Hurad Umadabha Kunja Vihakuti Jai Hurad Madhova Kunja Vihakuti Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvadikacharya also Teta Sitashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charana Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananda Goti Vaishnav Vrind Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Hridas Thakur Ki Jai Friends say Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam ki jai, Mathuranam ki jai, Jagannath Swami ki jai, Yamunamai ki jai, Shrimati Lasadevi ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Vastaya Budale, Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deja Tarni. So Om Gana Tipidandasha Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So what I decided to do, for those of you online and those of you in person, that we're going to have our continuation of our Caitanya Caritamrta readings in class at this time, since it's more or less the same time as they do in the United States, a half-hour difference. So everybody in the United States, it'll be at this time, or everybody in Europe, whatever, you're sleeping. And so, anyway, for the next about a week and a half while I'm in Australia. So that'll be very convenient. Okay, so, actually it's better for everybody. So, all right, let's go on to the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Okay, so we're reading from chapter 4, which is entitled, chapter 4 of the Antya Lila, which is entitled Sanatana Goswami Visits the Lord at Jagannath Puri. Everybody knows where Jagannath Puri is?
Yes.
That's where Lord Jagannath is, and where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent the final portion of his pastimes. The Lord's pastimes are divided into 3 parts, the Adi, Madhya, and Antya. In the Adi, he was up to 24. He was there in Sridham Mayapur with his family. In the Madhya, he traveled, went to Jagannath Puri first, but then he traveled all over India giving everybody mercy. And in the Antya, he just remained in Jagannath Puri, basically immersed in the mood of Srimati Radharani being separated from Krishna. So now he's back in Jagannath Puri, and the different devotees like Sanatana Goswami are coming to visit him. Sanatana Goswami previously got instruction from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Benares, and now then he went to Vrindavan, and now he's gone to Jagannath Puri to actually get Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's association. Now this is really an interesting chapter that teaches one dedication, humility, utilizing the example of Sanatana Goswami and his interactions with Lord Chaitanya and his sickness he got. Anyway, I'm not going to give away the whole story. So let's read the chapter summary, which does give away a lot of the story. Chapter summary. The 4th chapter is summarized by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Amrita Prabha Bhasha as follows. Srila Sanatana Goswami came alone from Mathura to Jagannath Puri to see Lord Chaitanya because of bathing in bad water and not getting enough food every day while traveling on the path through the Jharkhand. That's in Bihar, in case you didn't know, where most of you come from. At least all the devotees of Vijay, most of the devotees of Vijay came from. Confirmed. He developed a disease that made his body itch. Suffering greatly from his itching, he resolved that in the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would give him a bone or something. He would throw himself under the wheel of Jagannath's car, and this way commit suicide. So he just felt. The reason he wanted to do that is because he felt guilty because Lord Chaitanya was embracing him forcibly. And that's why he felt like he committed a great offense. Not simply that he was sick, but he thought because he was sick and had these running sores and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him, that he actually felt really guilty. When Sanatana Goswami came to Jagannath Puri, he stayed under the care of Haridas Thakur for some time, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see him. The Lord informed Sanatana Goswami about the death of his younger brother Anupama, who had great faith in the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra. One day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Sanatana Goswami, "Your decision to commit suicide is the result of the mode of ignorance. One cannot get love of God simply by committing suicide. You have already dedicated your life and body to my service, and therefore your body does not belong to you, nor do you have any right to commit suicide. I have to execute many devotional services through your body. I want you to preach the cult of devotional service and go to Vrindavan to excavate the whole lost holy places." After thus having spoken thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left, and Haridas Thakur and Sanatana Goswami had many talks about this subject. One day, Sanatana Goswami was summoned by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who wanted him to come to Yameshwara Tota. Sanatana Goswami reached the Lord through the path along the beach by the sea. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Sanatana Goswami which way he had come, Sanatana replied, "Many servitors of Lord Jagannath come and go on the path by the Singadwara gate of the Jagannath temple." That's the lion gate. "Therefore I did not go by that path. Instead of..." Someone died. Oh my God. Is that Navadweep?
Yeah.
Does he have COVID? Or?
No.
But instead went by the beach. Sanatana Goswami did not realize that because there were burning blisters on his feet because of the heat of the sand. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was pleased to hear about Sanatana Goswami's great respect for the temple of Lord Sri Jagannath. Because his disease produced wet sores on his body, Sanatana Goswami used to avoid embracing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But nevertheless, the Lord would embrace him by force. This made Sanatana Goswami very unhappy, and therefore he consulted Jagadananda Pandit about what he should do. Jagadananda advised him to return to Vrindavan after the car festival of Jagannath, but when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard about this instruction, he chastised Jagadananda Pandit and reminded him that Sanatana Goswami was senior to him and also more learned. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed Sanatana Goswami that because Sanatana was a pure devotee, the Lord was never inconvenienced by his bodily condition. Because the Lord was a sannyasi, he did not consider one body better than another. The Lord also informed him that he was maintaining Sanatana and the other devotees just like a father. Therefore, the moisture oozing from Sanatana's itching skin did not affect the Lord at all. After speaking with Sanatana in this way, the Lord again embraced him, and after this embrace, Sanatana Goswami became free from the disease. The Lord ordered Sanatana Goswami to stay with him for that year, and the next year, after seeing the Rath Yatra festival, he left Purushottama Kshetra and returned to Vrindavan. Actually, that's a good summary. After meeting Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Rupa Goswami also returned to Bengal, where he remained for 1 year. Whatever money he owned, he distributed among his relatives, the Brahmins in the temples. In this way, he completely retired and returned to Vrindavan to meet Sanatana Goswami. After narrating these incidents, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has given a list of the main books of Sanatana Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami, and Jiva Goswami. Okay, let's start the chapter. Vrindavana Puna Praptam Shri Gora Shri Sanatanam Deha Patadavan Snehat Shunam Chakre Parikshiha. When Sanatana Goswami returned from Vrindavan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu affectionately saved him from his determination to commit suicide. Then, after testing him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu purified his body. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya, of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nilachale haite rupa Gaudiya begela Mathura haite sanatana nilachala haila. When Srila Rupa Goswami returned from Jagannath Puri to Bengal, Sanatana Goswami went from Mathura to Jagannath Puri to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jadakanda Panapate Aile Kila Chailila Kabu Bhavasa Kabu Charavana Kariya. Sanatana Goswami walked alone on the path through the Jharkhanda forest in central India. Sometimes he fasted and sometimes he would eat. Jadakandera Jalera Doshe Upavasa Haite Gatre Kandu Hoila Rasa Pare Kaju Joite. Because of bad water in the Jharkhanda forest and because of fasting, Sanatana Goswami contracted a disease that made his body itch. Ooh. Thus he was afflicted with itching sores from which fluid oozed. Nirveda haila pate karena vichara nicha jati dehamora atyanta hasara. In disappointment, Sanatana Goswami considered, I am of a low caste, and my body is useless for devotional service. So this is actually the humility of a devotee. That Sanatana Goswami was not actually of a low caste. He was actually, his family came from Saraswata, Brahmin family in South India. But because he had done what? Does anyone know? He was considered a low caste. What had he done?
Because he was born in a Muslim family.
No, he wasn't. Not Sanatana Goswami.
He worked for the
He worked
for
the government. And the government was controlled by Nawab Hussain Shah, the Muslim magistrate. And so at that time it was considered that even if a Muslim sprinkled water from his water pot on you, you were converted immediately. Can you imagine that? Even be a nice way to make devotees just like conscious water. Doesn't work the other way though. Jagannathe Gela Tanra Darshana Napaimu Prabhupada Darshana Sada Karita Nadimu. When I go to Jagannath Puri, I shall not be able to see Lord Jagannath, nor shall I be able to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Wow. Because they were very strict that even if one had accepted employment from a Malecha or Yavana, he was not allowed to go into the temple. What to speak of, someone born in the Western world. Never. Mandira Nikate Shuni Tanravasa Stiti Mandira Nikate Yaite Moranahi Shakti. I have heard that the residential quarters of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are near the temple of Jagannath, but I shall not have the power to go near the temple. Jagannathera Sevaka Pere Karyanu Rudhe Tanra Sparsha Haila Mora Habe Haba Aparadhe. The servants of Lord Jagannath generally move about tending to their duties, but if they touch me, I shall be an offender. Tate Adeye Deha Balastane Dihe Dukkha Shanti Hayahara Sadgati Haye. Therefore, if I sacrifice this body in a good place, my unhappiness will be mitigated and I shall attain an exalted destination. Jagannatha Rata Yatraya Ahibena Bakira Tanrarata Chakaya Chadimu E Sharira. During the Rath Yatra festival, when Lord Jagannath comes out of the temple, I shall give up this body under the wheel of his car. No one should even contemplate that. Although it has become a ritual for some people to do that, it's not approved by Shastra. You're not allowed to do anything like that. In fact, when we have Rath Yatras, big Rath Yatras, I don't know if you've ever had a big Rath Yatra here, what they actually have like 8 people guarding the wheels to make sure. Do you have that here too?
Yeah.
So that nobody gets run over by the carts. We have 3 cart Rath Yatras. Do you ever have 3 cart Rath Yatras? Just one
Oh,
cart.
no, one mini one.
We have 3 big ones in New York. New York is called the Big Apple. And we have Rath Yatra carts that have electric motors on them. So with a remote control, so the person controlling can actually walk some distance from the cart and lower or raise the top. We are very sophisticated in America.
We need a tripod.
Mahaprabhu rage aradeki jagannatha rati deha charimu e parama purushartha. After seeing Lord Jagannath, I shall give up my body under the wheel of the car in the presence of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. This will be the highest benediction of my life. Eta nishchya kare nilachale aela loke puchi harirasa stani utarila. Having made this resolution, Sanatana Goswami went to Nilachal, where he asked directions from the people and approached the residence of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Sera Kaila, Atena Chanana Vandana, Jani Haridas Tanre, Haila Lingana. He offered his respects to the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur, who knew him, and thus embraced him. Mahaprabhu Dekite Tanra, Utkantita Mana, Haridasa Kahi Prabhu, Asivena Kana. Sanatana Goswami was very eager to see the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, Haridas Thakur said, the Lord is coming here very soon. Because Lord Chaitanya would go, after seeing the arti in the temple, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would always go to Haridas Thakur's place and bring prasadam. So it's said that even if you can't go into the temple, Lord Jagannath will come out in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give you association. Hena kale prabhu palaboga dekya harirase midite haila bhaktagana lana. At that very moment, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after visiting the temple of Jagannath to see the offering of Palaboga, morning refreshments, came with his other devotees to see Haridas Thakur. Prabhu deki dunhe pade dandavatana Prabhu lingila Haridas sere utana. Seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, both Haridas Thakur and Sanatana Goswami immediately fall flat like rods to offer obeisances. The Lord then lifted Haridas and embraced him. See how affectionate Lord Chaitanya was. Haridasa kahe Sanatana kare namaskara Sanatane deki Prabhu haila chamatkara. Haridas Thakur said to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, here is Sanatana Goswami offering his obeisances. Seeing Sanatana Goswami, the Lord was greatly surprised. Sanatane alingite Prabhu agu hoila pache bage Sanatana kahite lagila. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came forward to embrace him, Sanatana backed away and spoke as follows. Morena chunya Prabhu padon tumara paya eke nichakjati adama ara kandurasa koya. My Lord, please do not touch me. I fall at your lotus feet. I am the lowest of men, having been born of a low caste. Besides that, I have infections on my body. Balatkare Prabhu Tanre Alingana Kaila Kandu Kleda Mahaprabhura Sri Anga Lagila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, embraced Sanatana Goswami by force. Thus the moisture oozing from the itching sores touched the transcendental body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Wow. Sabhavakta Gane Prabhu Milaila Sanatane Sanatana Kaila Sabara Chadana Vandane. The Lord introduced all the devotees to Sanatana Goswami, offered his respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of them all. Prabhu Lana Pasila Pindara Upare Bhakta Gana Pindara Vatale Vasila Haridasa Sanatana. The Lord and his devotees sat on a raised platform, and below them sat Haridas Thakur and Sanatana Goswami. Kushala Varta Mahaprabhu Puchena Sanatane Tena Karhena Paramamangala Dekinu Charante. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from Sanatana about news of his well-being, and Sanatana replied, "Everything's auspicious because I have seen your lotus feet." Maturara Vaishnava Savera Kushala Puchila Sabara Kushala Sanatana Janayala. Sorry, got that wrong. When the Lord asked about all the Vaishnavas of Mathura, Sanatana Goswami informed him of their good health and fortune. Prabhu Kahe Ihan Rupa Chila Dashamasa Ihan Haiti Goda Gela Haila Dina Dasha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed Sanatana Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami was here for 10 months. He left for Bengal just 10 days ago. Tomarabai Anupamera Haila Ganga Prapti Balachila Raganate Dridatara Bhakti. Your brother Anupama is now dead. He was a very good devotee who had firm conviction in Raghunath, Lord Ramchandra. So the story is that Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami had one brother, Anupama, who was the father of Srila Jiva Goswami. And Anupama was always dedicated to Lord Ram, and he always wanted to chant Ram Nam. And Sanatana and Rupa Goswami, they tried to dissuade him, like the devotees in Fiji do sometimes. They say, just chant Hare Krishna, no more Ram Nam. And so he tried, and he started crying and crying and crying, and he couldn't stop chanting Ram Nam. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, that is the sign of someone who is dedicated to their Ishtadevata, their worshipful deity. So, of course, we should be like that. I mean, if you're dedicated to Lord Ram, there's no problem. Everybody has their specific relationship. Some people by nature are Ram Bhaktas, and some people by nature are Radha and Krishna Bhaktas. Some people are Bhaktas Ladu Gopal. Some people are Nrsimha Bhaktas. So you got to let everybody be whatever they are. We have an eternal relationship, so that's really important. So Sanatana, of course you can test someone. Chant Hare Krishna. No! Sitaram, 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 Ram, 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 Ram. Chant Hare Krishna. No! I don't think I've ever run into anyone like that. But, I've run into a lot of devotees who are Ram Bhaktas. And the interesting thing, you can also be a Krishna Bhakta simultaneously. And in the spiritual world, you can be in two places simultaneously. You can be with Ram, and you can be with Krishna. So there's no problem. Don't worry about it. Sanatana kahe nichavamse mora janma da adharma anyaya yata amara kula dharma. Sanatana Goswami said, I was born in a low family, for my family commits all kinds of irreligious acts that violate the scriptural injunctions. In other words, they worked for the Muslim government. That was, and it's interesting, when you work for someone who's doing something irreligious, it's considered that you have some connection with those irreligious activities, even if you don't do those irreligious activities. But there's no way to avoid it in this material world. Like if you're working for the electrical company, people are using electricity to do all sorts of abominable things. If you're driving a taxi, people are, isn't it? If you're growing kava. I mean, what can you do? Every activity is connected to something sinful in this world, except for, distributing Bhagavatams or something like that. But you got to maintain your family. Any corporation you're working for, there's some connection with breaking the regulated principles, at least one or two of the regulated principles. So that's the nature of this world, what can you do? And the reason Sanatana and Rupa Goswami worked for the Nawab Hussain Shah, the Muslim government, was because he, Nawab Hussain Shah, threatened to kill all their friends and relatives unless they worked for him. So it wasn't that they voluntarily, because of greediness, and they made a lot of money, but it wasn't because of greediness they worked for the Muslim government. It was to protect the Vaishnavas. So there was no fault on their part. Had they worked just because they wanted all that money, that would have been a fault. But that really wasn't the case. So try to understand, there was no contamination there. Henavamsha grina gyachari kaila angikara tamara kripaya vamshe mangala amara. My Lord, without hatred for my family, you've accepted me as your servant. Only by your mercy is there good fortune in my family. Se anupamavai shishu kala haite raghunatha upasana kare tridachite. From the very beginning of his childhood, my younger brother Anupama was a great devotee of Lord Raghunath, Lord Ramchandra, and he worshipped him with great determination. Ratri dine Raghunathera nama ara jana Ramayana niravadi shunekare jana gana. He always chanted the holy name of Raghunath and meditated upon him. He continuously heard about the activities of the Lord from the Ramayana and chanted about them. Amiyara rupa tara jeshta sohodara amadonha sange tena rahe nirantara. Rupa and I are his elder brothers. He stayed with us continuously. Amad Savasange Krishna Kata Bhagavata Shune Dahara Pariksha Koilu Nami Dvijane. He heard Srimad Bhagavatam and talks about Lord Krishna with us, and both of us examined him. Shunaha Balava Krishna Parama Madhura Sundari Madhurya Prema Vilasha Prachura. Dear Balava, we said, please hear about us. Lord Krishna is supremely. In other words, they're trying to convince him. Come, join the Hare Krishna movement. Just don't chant Sitaram all the time. Lord Krishna, this is interesting, is supremely attractive. His beauty, sweetness, and pastimes of love are without limit. Krishna bhajana kara tume amal nunhara sange dinabaye katra rahimu Krishna Kata Range. Engage yourself in devotional service to Krishna. With the two of us, we three brothers will stay together and enjoy discussing the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Ematabara bara kahi dwijana amadunhara gorave kichu piri gela mana. In this way we spoke to him, and again, because of this persuasion and his respect for us, his mind turned somewhat toward our instructions. Tumadunharagda Ami Kemane Lakhimu Dikshamantra Deha Krishna Bhajana Karimu. Ballabha replied, my dear brothers, how can I disobey your orders? Initiate me into the Krishna mantra so they may perform devotional service to Lord Krishna. Etakahi Ratrikale Karena Chintana Kemana Chadimu Raghunathera Charana. After saying this at night, he began to think, how shall I give up the lotus feet of Lord Raghunatha? This is the devotion devotee should have. Sabaratri Krandanakari Kaila Jagarana Pratakale Amadunaya Kaila Nivedana. He stayed up all night and cried. In the morning he came to us and submitted the following plea. Raghunathera Padapadme Kichiyachon Mata Kadaitina Paron Mata Panabada Vyata. I have sold my head at the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra. I cannot take it away. That would be too painful for me. Kripa Kari More Agda Dea Dwijana Janme Janme Sevon Raghunathera Charana. The two of you, please be merciful to me and order me in such a way that life after life I may serve the lotus feet of Lord Raghunath. Wow. Raghunathera Pada Padma Chadana Nahyaya Charivaramana Haile Pranapati Haya. It's impossible for me to give up the lotus feet of Lord Raghunath. Raghunath. When I even think of giving them up, my heart breaks. Tabe ame nunhe tare alingana kailun sadudrida bhakti tumara kahi rashi shulun. Upon hearing this, we each embraced him and encouraged him, saying, "You are a great saintly devotee, for your determination and devotional service is fixed." In this way, we praised him. Yevam shera paratumara haya kripa lesha sakala mangalatahi kande sava klesha. My dear Lord, the family upon which you bestow even a little mercy is always fortunate, for such mercy makes all miseries disappear. So actually, that's all we'll read today, so we can take questions, either online or questions in person. Any questions?
Okay, then I'm asking.
All right.
So, we see here Sanatana Goswami is portraying, teaching us how to be a good devotee.
Yeah.
Like, but he calls himself like Nijati Adama,
Yeah.
and his body is oozing from the wounds, and he thinks his body is contaminated.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, I'm thinking from the other platform, like we should also respect the Shastras, because Shastras teaches us something else as well, like the bodies.
Yes, but this is his humility.
His humility, yeah.
That's his humility. Obviously, it's described that if one sees a devotee according to their body, or sees the deity as stone or wood or something like that, one is possessed of hellish intelligence. But with oneself, one could apply those particular injunction, the particular understanding out of humility. So, any other questions? No? No, we'll let the people online. Let me stop sharing. And we'll let the people online talk. Hold on a second. I got to unmute everybody so they can talk. It's nice to be able to mute people. It's a joke. If the dog here had a mute button, it would be good. Okay. Does anyone there have any questions? Anyone online? We got.
Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances.
Oh, he's in Sydney.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what's the question?
Gurudev, it's a very technical question. Like you said, when we have a spiritual body, we can be at two places in the spiritual world. So I have a question. When Narada Muni came to see Lord Krishna, he was with different of his queens, and he was doing different activities. And he was astonished that how can Krishna be doing different activities with different, because in comparison to a Muni, I think you know what I'm going to say. So
Yeah. I know. I get it. So go fast forward.
yeah, so in the Muni, there was a Rishi and he had many queens, but he was doing the same activity. He couldn't do different, but Krishna can do, being a Vishnu Tattva, different
Yeah.
activity.
So,
So we, in the spiritual world, will be doing different activity at
the
different
spiritual
places.
world is different. The pure devotee, Krishna can empower his pure devotee to be in several places at one time. Not unlimited places. I mean, Krishna can do anything. But the spiritual world is different. One who has a spiritual body. If you have a spiritual body. Right now we have a material body. So if you learn yoga, you can be in several places at once, but it'll be like a television image. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from... You got a lot of people watching. I mean, it's nice. Not as many as usual, but 22 online right now. So when people learn that I'm doing this every day, they'll get back into the rhythm. Oh, Krishna Lila's watching. That's nice. So any other questions?
Please accept my obeisances, Gurudev.
Oh, Gopal. Okay. What's the question?
So, if it's not okay for a devotee to commit suicide because he'd be killing the body of a devotee, then why is it okay for him to speak ill of himself or even think ill of himself if he understands that his body is performing devotional service?
Basically, it's an expression of humility which overrides. It's not humility to kill yourself. It's actually self-centeredness. Because you want to kill yourself because you want to get something or you want to get free from something. You're not killing yourself to please the Lord. Whereas the expression of humility, overriding, criticizing a Vaishnava who happens to be yourself, is actually a higher principle. It's a higher principle of humility, but it's not humility to kill yourself. Okay?
Thank you, Gurudev.
All right. Let's see. Anybody else? If not, we can end class and begin tomorrow. So every morning we're going to try to do this while I'm in Australia. Oh, you see that guy behind you? Yeah.
Gurudev, can I ask something?
Yeah.
So, exalted devotees like Sanatana Goswami, if he thinks that he can commit suicide, I should forgot my question again.
You forgot your question?
Yeah. So I was thinking two questions. Sorry, I skipped this.
Yeah. If he thinks he commits suicide, should we actually be thinking like that? No.
If it's displeasing the Lord.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I understand.
The hope.
Sorry. So is it usually is it considered mode of ignorance, or because he's thinking from like a spiritual perspective as well because of
Well, Sanatana Goswami is a pure devotee. There's no question of the mode of ignorance. He's just thinking that he's committed offenses. Not because of the sores on his body, but he's committing offenses being embraced by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so he's thinking if this is a way to rectify his offenses. But it's not a way to rectify offenses. But it's just, this is a devotional mood.
Yeah, it's a devotional mode, not mode of ignorance.
It's not mode of ignorance.
Yeah.
Not, sometimes things that would apparently be ignorant, like rolling on the ground and foaming at the mouth and things like that, are not.
Yeah.
When expressed by devotees, they're symptoms, they're bhavas, transcendental emotions. Okay, anything else? And, okay, so we want to thank everybody for joining us and tolerating the differences in time. Guess that's it. See everybody later.